Saadadeen,
Sulaiman.
how was your week, bro?
My week's been alright. I've been getting into cooking and baking, bro.
Yeah.
I've been whipping it up a storm.
I can verify that.
I've been. Do you know what my speciality is? Yeah,
Tell us.
I already got a speciality, man. 2 days in, I got a speciality, bro. Chicken breast with kidney beans and couscous, bro. It's so lit.
That sounds alright, man. That sounds edible. That sounds good.
Remember when I gave you the cake and I was like, "How is it?" You was like, "Yeah, very edible."
Yeah, Saadadeen made a cake as well recently.
Yeah, chocolate cake, fam.
So what? Just your main course, desserts,
Dessert.
starter. What can you make for starter though? That's the question.
But for starter, yeah, I'll make egg with sausage. Bro, that's my go-to.
Those are your free
It will
meals.
just get shoehorned in, bro.
Recognized.
It will get shoehorned in.
Oh, okay, my question for you, yeah, off the back of that is, how do you feel knowing that you can cook now? Like, how has that helped you?
I feel very powerful, bro. I feel very powerful. I walk into the supermarket, I'm like, I can, you get me?
Yeah.
Or no, do you know what it really is? When you go to a restaurant,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
and then you're like, I can make this. Why am I
Listen.
paying you? I can just make this, like, loud. I don't need you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, it's a good feeling, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I would recommend to anyone that's considering it.
Yeah.
Definitely make the leap. Make the leap.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, man.
100%.
What about you, bro? How's your week?
So there's two things that came to mind. Number one, it's like a comedy skit by Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
So basically, for the longest time, yeah, Saadadeen has been borrowing my whiteboard.
Oh.
Yeah, the longest time. I'm talking 12 months plus. It's been a while. I haven't seen that whiteboard in a minute.
Yeah.
And then eventually I realized that I kind of needed my whiteboard back. So I was like to Saadadeen, can I borrow my whiteboard? And I was like, if anyone's seen that Chris Tucker stand-up comedy, he's like, when your friend borrows your thing for so long, you got to borrow it back. Yeah. And that just made me laugh so bad.
Yeah. I remember he's like, bro, you see the whiteboard, lads? All right, I was like, bro, it's yours anyway, you know? He's like, yeah, I know, but
Nah, man, like,
it just felt like it just took a place. I think it's probably been in some episodes, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where it was just chilling in the background.
yeah, man. So that's number one. And then number two is a YouTube video I watched recently. It's an interview conversation between Chucky and Potter Paper, the JD Sports episode. Shout out Ahmed for putting on his story because I checked it out after seeing his story. And the reason, there was one line from that episode that stood out to me, yeah, and it was Potter Paper talking about his time in school, and he said one of the attitude he had in school once he built a reputation for being the naughty kid was to cut off his nose to spite his face. So it's that phrase that I've come across in the past where you overemphasize like a critique or something just to kind of as a source of revenge, where you kind of cut off your nose to spite off your face. And I felt like that line, I hadn't come across it in a while, but it really stood out to me. Like, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that phrase?
The phrase itself, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like, I suppose when you're getting told, yeah, you're this or you're that, you kind of feel disempowered, innit? So then the source of power is in, look how far I can take this.
Yes.
So it's a weird way of trying to, I don't know, reassert your like dominance over yourself.
It's definitely to do with power, 100%. And I think it nicely leads on to the conversation today in terms of what we're going to be speaking about.
Yeah. So the conversation we wanted to have today is about looking back at both of our times at secondary school and asking ourselves if there was one thing we would do differently looking back now, what would it be? And I know mine was to be more brave. And what I mean by that specifically is I remember being in school, so much of what I'd done, even though I didn't know it at the time, was based around like labels and who I thought I was and what I thought people people like me do and don't do. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you don't really venture outside of that. One thing that comes to mind is in my school, there was a music studio, and like sometimes people go in there and someone, I don't know, like in playtime or lunchtime or whatever, And I remember going in, I was like, this is moist, man. Like, this is dead. Like, what am I doing here, innit? But there was also a part of me, yeah, that was like, this is just mad difficult. There's just so many buttons. So what's the point of trying? Do you know what I mean? But it's easy to kind of package it up in that, like, this is moist, whatever. Like, who does this anyway? This is for nerds or whatever kind of thing. And then just keep it moving. Looking back now, yeah, if I had taken that leap at that time and just fiddled around with it for a couple of lunchtimes a week, for example, and just utilize the resource that was just in front of me. Like, there's nowhere else I could just walk into and there'll be a music studio. Do you know what I mean? And it was at my fingertips. And so much of what we do now has got to do with like sound engineering or understanding like the importance of the different functions on nozzles of a mixer or whatever. And it's like, wow, if I just did that then, yeah, how much more clued up would I be on like very important things? And the world we're moving into now, like multimedia, etc., sound is huge. Do you know what I mean? How things sound is so important. So for me, that's an element or an example of not being brave enough to just take that leap there and then. I used to think, I'm one of the man them, like this is not what we do kind of thing. But obviously underlying all of that is an insecurity. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, you couldn't say that to me. You didn't. I would be like, nah, that's just how I am, and that it's not me, it's them kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's one thing that comes to mind.
That's really interesting. Is there someone that comes to mind when you think of someone that was more secure of themselves and that was willing to put themselves out there in a way that was, for you, slightly embarrassing? Like, you wouldn't really do what they did.
That's a good question, you know. There were probably a lot of people, man. I remember I can't think of a person. Well, anyway, let me get to it. But basically, things like performing in like assemblies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. That is. I used to think that's weird. Like, but now I'm like, that's so sick to do like a talent show and go up and perform in front of everyone and to for example, act in plays. And this is what I think is sick. Acting in plays, not for people that necessarily want to be actors, because that's another thing altogether, but people that are just like, I'm just going to do it. Like, why not? That, for me, is the sick thing. It's not the people that are trying to make this a craft and really hone it and learn it. It's the people that, for me, the word I use, brave, is very purposely just brave enough to go, I'm just going to do it, I'm not really, I'm just doing it because it's there. It's an opportunity and I'm going to take it and act in the Lion, the Witch, and or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was in my school. They did a couple. But do you know, like that kind of thing, going to rehearsals and all of that, and then still kind of just being yourself as you walk around the school. And for me, that's so wise, because it's kind of understanding that no one is a thing. Like, there's no such thing as, oh, you're just one of the man them, so this is how you're just kind of the collection of experiences that you put yourself in. And so I don't know, for me, like looking back now, people that did that were not, it's not wet or moist or whatever, it's actually mad brave, and it's wise, fam, because brave kind of makes it sound like you're going, but it's just wise, because it's like, that's just how you should go about life.
That's interesting. It links to our conversation with Samuel about like not pigeonholing ourselves.
Yeah,
and it links to something you said in your episode about how for you a successful year is a year where you've become more broad. Like you've broadened your interests, you've broadened your levels of expertise, whatever. Like being more broad rather than one-dimensional.
I think, and on the point of like you mentioned Potter Paper's interview, I've yet to watch it, but I would say like it's a big theme, man, in terms of like what is cool is like a couple of things, and so you do that, like being bad, being da-da-da-da. That's the thing, innit? And you do get a level of notoriety and a reputation and whatever. So you kind of go, that's what I'm. Do you get me? That's who I am now.
I think it's important to like, for me personally, not to think that this is something that only happens when you're young.
Yeah.
Like this is something that I feel like people have throughout their adulthood. And for me, what's worked well for me is just reflecting and just asking yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because even at 15, like that's one piece of advice that I might give to a 15-year-old. Just ask yourself why, sincerely. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know. I don't think really during school, when I went home in different spaces at that age, I ever like engaged with introspection. I just don't think that was something that we did at that age, even though it's important throughout your life.
Yeah.
From childhood to adulthood, like introspection is important. Cool. So yeah, and you know what? I think it nicely leads on to my my point about what I would do differently. So one of the questions you said is like, why not? You said the phrase, why not? Like, if you want to do sound engineering, if you want to do whatever, if you want to do acting, like, why not? That's an important question that I think links to my point. And it's, yeah, if I could do anything, or if I could change one thing about the way I carried myself during school, it would just be I would basically advise myself to be more inventive and be more kind of solutions minded. Yeah, man, like, I feel like, and it also links to your topic of bravery and confidence, like being brave enough to mold your environment and not let your environment dictate you and control you. And I'll give you a basic example. So when I was at school, we didn't go on many trips. We didn't go on many trips, especially trips abroad, because I've got friends at other schools that were able to go on trips abroad, even at year 9, year 8, year 10, like, and it was a sick experience for them. One thing I would advise my younger self is, if you notice a disparity in opportunity, yeah, do something about it. And like, even though 9 times out of 10 you're not going to be able to organize a trip for your class, I think just having that approach and that attitude of like trying to solve the problems that exist around you is extremely healthy. Kind of doing what you can where you are with what you have. That's kind of the line that comes to mind. And like another example is, I said this to you before the podcast, but like, if you're part of a team, a sports team, a football team, and you think your coach is just like whack, and you think he's not organized, and you guys aren't getting the results that you want as a team, like, have a look at which teams are in the local area that are doing good, that are very well organized, professional, whatever. And if you care about your team and you want to be the number 1 team in the league, then just reach out, bro, on a real. Maybe this sounds too extreme, yeah, but I would tell my younger self, go to the school after school, find a coach, speak to the coach. And if I was that coach, I would be so amazed at a 15-year-old coming to another school just to have a conversation with me. Yeah. And I would probably honor that enthusiasm by arranging a meeting with their coach. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm trying to think of a nice way to describe it. But for me, it's just being inventive and like being creative and being solutions minded. Yeah. For most things that we think are impossible, they're actually just improbable. Like, the probability is extremely low that you're going to be able to, convert it into success, but it doesn't mean it's impossible, right? Yeah. And that sounds kind of cliche, but it's just facts. And I think our experiences at uni have given us that sense of confidence now to say that to our younger self. I think one of the reasons why I didn't have that attitude is because I just didn't have that experience of success.
I think more than that, though, it's not even about success in that moment. I think it's about laying the foundations of something that will benefit you in the future. Yeah. And you never know how it can benefit you. And I think that's the important thing. Like, even sound engineering at my school in the studio, it wouldn't have been until how many years later, until I got to uni and we did the podcast, that it kind of would have came in handy. And it's kind of like, life is just funny that way. Like, you just never know how the seeds that you planted back in the day are gonna come back, and you're able to reap what you sow in that way. So I would say that is for me the advice I would give myself. Like, just plant hella seeds, because you just never know.
Facts. Like, not to make this self-centered, but it's kind of a legacy project as well. Like, for example, let's say you were the one kid in your class here that was able to contribute towards organizing a trip abroad. Yeah. Imagine the clout you're gonna get, bro. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to fuel the fire, but like, it's actually something you should be very proud of as well. Yeah. Because like, that trip might be something that happens every year now because of your initiative. Yeah. Bro,
yeah. All right. Let me. Okay. So in potential challenge to what I raised, because I said just plant a lot of seeds, in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself, but isn't that too broad? Like, don't you want to kind of focus on something? Isn't that too scatterbrained? What do you think?
Yeah, what about like spreading yourself too thin? Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good point. I think for me, it's not about the outcome. It's about the attitude. It's about the attitude for me. Like, being a problem solver, because problems will exist in your life no matter how old you are, what stage of life you're in. You're always gonna come across problems, and I think for you, your community, your family, for everyone that you care about, being a problem solver will make you a more fulfilled person. Like being someone that addresses problems rather than just is at the mercy of problems. So in terms of spreading, I don't know. For me, that's not a concern. Like when you're 15, I wouldn't I wouldn't expect you to know exactly what problems you're best at solving. Do you know what I mean? Like because you just haven't had the experience. I mean, if you feel like you do, then you know what I mean, like do your thing, bro. Like no one's stopping you. But for me, it's more about exercising the muscle and just even the smallest things, bro. Like let me see if I can give you an example. Like, cool. Like, I think you mentioned this in a previous podcast, and you know when a supply teacher comes into your class and tries to change things around or tries to put the books on that shelf when really it was on that shelf. Yeah. If you think that doesn't make sense, speak up. Try to give an argument, bro. Like present an argument for why that doesn't make sense. Obviously, there are micro incidences, there are macro things, and maybe it's not worth spending your energy talking about something that is insignificant. But like even in small micro incidences, where you think that things could be done better, I think it's just worth speaking up, and I think it's worth using that inventive mind. I'm trying to think of some other examples, man. At school, like. I don't know. Is there anything at your school that you think could have been better?
I think so I remember we spoke about this in Ezram's episode, where Ezram got put in a set. So someone that's been featured on our podcast, he got put in a set in year 10 or year 11. Yeah. No, not even that. He was way younger. Yes, I think it was year 8 or year 7. Year 7, year 8. He got put in an English set, like the 4th instead of I don't know the 2nd or 1st, for example. Yeah. And he was not happy with this. And at this time, a new head teacher came into our school, and this head teacher had a reputation of being like the scariest person alive. He used to kind of walk around the school, make sure everyone's top buttons were done, make sure your tie was this length, make sure if you miss a detention, he'll give you like triple the time in detention. Like super cutthroat guy. Yeah, if he walks into a classroom, everyone's silent, proper. And I remember he wasn't happy with getting put in a low set, so he was like, okay, this is what you did, English teacher. I'm gonna go to the head teacher, who really and truly has no concern with your English set. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You have a head of year, you have a form tutor, you have the head of English. Yeah. He was like, nope, I'm going straight to this new head teacher, and I'm gonna go up to him in the playground. And he got moved. He got put back in the right set. And their teacher was like, do you know what's funny? Like you said about someone kind of going raw. Like this year 7 or year 8 came up to me. I've never known in some oversized blazer and goes, look, I've been put in the wrong set. Yeah. I think I should be put in a higher set. Sorted it out, but put in the right set. And I remember when he told me at this time, before he went up to the teacher, he was telling me I'm gonna go up to him. He was incensed, and everyone was like, he's a clever guy, but he's not like, he was not the academic guy. Even though you get me, that did his thing and that, but he wasn't someone that you'd necessarily. But he's just like, nah, I've been. This is unjust. An injustice anywhere is an injustice. It's an injustice everywhere. Yeah, so he's like, nah, boom, put in the right set, and I just remember, I'll never forget that, fam.
There's two things that I'll take away from that story. Number one, when we're at school, we kind of have a certain worldview. Yeah. And the worldview is that you can't mess around really with the way things are run at school. Yeah. You go to lesson from this time to that time. You go to lunch from this time to that time. Yeah. You stay quiet when a teacher walks in the room. There are certain rules that you have to follow, and some of them are unspoken rules. Do you know what I mean? Like the idea of not being able to speak to your head teacher, like they're kind of, they're not approachable. Do you know what I mean? They're just like the person that runs the entire show, and you can't chat to them because you haven't got the status. And I think one thing I would say to my 15-year-old self or 16-year-old self is that school isn't as rigid as you might think it is. Like it is malleable. You can change things. You can be a change maker if you want. Like obviously there are every school is different, but be as audacious as Ezram was. Like if you see something you don't like, mold your environment, bruv. Like don't think that you're a slave. You know what I mean? Like put starkly, don't think you're a slave within a system. That you can do things. And yeah, it kind of builds upon your first story about having the confidence to do things, because you might have a certain perception of yourself that I'm not that bothered, I'm nonchalant, like I just do what I got to do, just walk through school, leave when I have to leave. Like this isn't a place where I even put much effort in. Like I guess that will be the first thing you would need to address before you can even start thinking about making changes. But that's what comes to mind. And the second thing that comes to mind from that story is cut the middleman. Like just cut the middleman out. Like go to the decision maker. That's like, it's a practical piece of advice throughout life, I guess, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to see things happen, go to the person that can make things happen. Yeah. I can figure out something that I tried to do. Yeah, I tried to contact the flipping CEO of Nando's to try and make the Cambridge Nando's halal. Like,
Nah, bro. The struggle still continues.
The
bro.
struggle still continues.
We got a couple more times.
One more time, really.
One more time.
But I think, you know what, a nice way to wrap up this convo is to switch up the question and instead ask, instead of what would you do differently, what one thing are you grateful for your younger self for doing? It's a question that both of us have asked ourselves in the past. Like, what would you say your answer is?
Do you have something in mind?
Yes. Shall I go?
Go on.
Being a teacher's pet. Yeah.
Go on.
So in year 10, I've already spoken about this woman enough times on this podcast, but my history teacher came to my school. Yeah. And she basically gave me a lot of attention. Like, she made me feel like the man. Like, she made me feel like my work was valuable. And as a result, I was basically a teacher's pet, bro. Like, no cap. I used to go, I think maybe the equivalent of how some students were with D. Like, I used to go spend time with her at lunch. I used to just chill with her after class, ask her questions, help her carry her books back to the staff room. Like, I was doing the most. I was very active. Like, and I just did it because I felt some sense of, like, I just wanted to give back. I don't know, maybe it was subconscious, but I felt like this woman is doing the most for me, yeah? And she makes me feel good in the sense that I feel more confident in my abilities and like my potential. And she would say crazy things, bro. Like, I remember once she said to me, "You're the type of person that I can imagine speaking to thousands of people." And like, when you're a 15 egotistical kid that, you know what I mean, like, that wants to be the man, that's you can't, there's no words that are better than that. It means a lot. It means a lot to you. And yeah, so that's one thing I'm proud of. I'm happy I did, because to this day, like, we're still in touch. And if I need a reference, if I need an opinion, if I need advice, if I need counsel, whatever, I can still shout her. So I'm happy I had that relationship.
I can't say it's a thing, but a quality that I definitely had when I was younger is I was very stubborn, and I kind of would never settle with an answer that I feel like, nah, I'm not happy with this. I remember doing my GCSE ICT coursework, yeah, and I remember putting bare work in, like, I did, bro, literally like 80 slides, yeah. It was like picture slide, you had to analyze websites, and I remember the ICT teacher coming up to me and going, nah, that's you're doing things wrong, innit? And he's the guy that's marking it. Imagine this, yeah. He's like, he's the guy that's marking this paper. He's like, no, that's not right. Like, you're doing things wrong. And I was like to him, no, I'm doing things right. Move, bro. Like, what do you mean? And obviously, I'm putting effort into this, innit? So I was like, don't tell me. I'm putting work. Looking back now, obviously, just do what the guy that's marking it says to do, because, do you get me? But at the same time, I think it's because of that even though the first time I got an A was when I was 18. Before that, I'd never seen an A before. It kind of meant that I continued to try. Like, I never was like, oh, okay, I got like a grade, and I suppose this is just who I am now, and this is the fate I'm condemned to. I just always was like, I try. I'm still gonna try the next time, and it like it is what it is. Nothing. I don't take this as like a final statement on who I am. Even now, bro, like, I'll still continue to try and wake up early. No matter how many times I don't wake up early, I will try. Next day, I'm waking up early. And bro, I don't care. A part of it is like, okay, you have to kind of buckle up and reevaluate. But a part of it is like, I'm still gonna try. Like, I'm never gonna just go, this is just not for me. Do you know what I mean? And for me, in large part, that's the reason for a lot of things I've done. It's gone like that. I'm just gonna try it, and it's probably may not work out the first time, but I'm okay with that, and just ricocheting my way through it. So that's one thing I'm definitely grateful for my younger self
Bro, so you're telling me you're Rocky Balboa? 4 down 7 times, get up 8. That's you, yeah? Okay.
Bro.
Nah, man, I love that, bro. You said that. Do you remember in our previous episode when I told you that I was trying to wake up at 5:30?
Yeah.
And you said something that has stuck with me to this day. It doesn't matter if you fail. It's more about like if you continue to keep trying to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how many times you don't wake up at. Early in the morning. It's just about the attitude, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Saadadeen's the new Rocky. You heard that? You know what I mean?
No cap. No cap. No cap. No cap.
Yeah, man. So we saying that's a wrap, yeah?
Yeah, that's calm.
Leave it there. Bro, you know what? One thing I want to say to the audience, the people listening, is if you like this convo, if it's something that you enjoy listening to, DM us, bro. Get in contact with us. Shoot us an email, whatever, and let us know what topics you'd be interested in hearing us speak
100%,
about.
100%.
Anything else?
Yeah, like we've really appreciated all of the thoughts, suggestions, comments, reflections so far, and we appreciate the fact that you lot are like engaged and just shouting us basically.
That's it.
That's the bell for lunch.
That's it. School's up.
Yeah, but yeah, just keep it coming. We really appreciate it, and yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
See you next week.